And a very good afternoon to all the participants and an eminent speaker from industry, Dr. Shouvik Chatterjee. Dr. Shouvik Chatterjee is a mechanical engineering graduate from Jadavpur University and has earned his PhD from Virginia Tech. Currently, he is working as an education technical evangelist with MathWorks India. He is advocating computational thinking and model-based product-oriented interdisciplinary approach in research and education, partnering with universities across the India. He is a recipient of Best PhD Thesis Award and Young Scientist Award from International Society for Energy, Environment, and Sustainability. He worked at the University of Illinois at Chicago as postdoctoral associate and at Enterprise Works Chicago as strategic consultant for commercialization of academic innovations. Dr. Chatterjee is an author and co-author of multiple journal articles, book chapters, and is inventor of two US patents. So for this brief introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Chatterjee to address our participants all over the globe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gufran. Thanks for the warm introduction. Yes, thank you for the invitation for speaking in this platform as well. And thanks everybody for joining from home for the conference. Sure, let me know when.
So Dr. Shouvik, now you are able to share the content.
Yes.
Before starting the presentation, I want your permission. Can I record your lecture, please?
Sure. Okay, thank you so much. I will stop my video so that everybody can see the slides in order. Otherwise, there might be some lags and stuff with the bandwidth. So the way also, I mean, I see the chat window is active and everybody are responding. So feel free to just respond in the chat window if any questions at any point of time. I am looking into the chat window also occasionally in different screens. So I'll address those questions as and when comes. Also at the end, we can have like a question answer session. But if you want some questions or any clarifications at that very moment, please feel free to just post in the chat window. So am I audible? Okay, Dr. Chauhan?
You are audible.
Sure, and the screen is visible? And the screen is also visible, right?
Yes, completely visible.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
Sure. Okay, so then we will get started. And as has been discussed, so we have our topic. What I'll be covering is optimization in energy management system for building automation. So we'll cover like what exactly is this thing is, and how does that help in our energy management systems, and then how do we do that in the platform of MATLAB, as since I'm from MathWorks, the company. So we'll talk about how that works in general. Okay, so now if we just go ahead with this, and also for the slides and everything, I'll share those later on as well. So in any way you'll get them, so don't worry about the slides and all those things. Okay, so the parent company we are from is MathWorks. If you have used MATLAB Simulink for any of applications in maybe in control systems or AI or any particular domain of image processing or anything, so that is MATLAB and Simulink. Those are the two flagship products of MathWorks. MathWorks is the parent company which consists of with these products as the core ones, and then there are multiple toolboxes for specific different applications. Now moving ahead, if you have used any of these tools, you might know. So the basic platform, in fact, let's do it like this way. Can you just press maybe Y or N if you have used MATLAB and or Simulink before? So you can say Y in the chat window if you have yes used it, if no, and if you have not used it. Okay, so that's good to know that. So then I'll assume that many of you have used it. I'll also mention what it is for any of them who have not used it. You can also know. So MATLAB means Matrix Laboratory. See plenty of UIs and some know. So we'll cover what those are. So basically, the basic product is called MATLAB. Everything is built on top of MATLAB, and then Simulink is there, and we'll talk about what exactly those things are. So MATLAB is basically this visualization environment. So if you look into here, we can write codes, and there are multiple analysis that we can do, statistics, AIs, and things. Then Simulink is more of this block diagram based approach, where we can have a block diagram of any system. And yes, this is a typical thing of a control system as what is coming up here. So we have a controller, and then we can have transfer functions, and then we can use all of those. And then there are multiple toolboxes for specific applications. Like this is typical of a computer vision, but we can have multiple different based on the applications. So these are the products. And in terms of users, so we have multiple users, many from academic environments, and then there are loads of commercial and industrial usages as well. If we look into any automotive or aerospace companies, every top automotive or aerospace companies use MATLAB Simulink for control system, for AI, or for many of the building automation, which we will talk about as well. So many of the companies, like if you think of Tata Motors to Toyota or Honda or Audi, Tesla, all of them have been using in different forms. And then we'll talk about how it is used for buildings as well, because say, for example, Tata Steel has been using for their factory energy management as well. So in terms of the industries, aerospace and automotive till date are the biggest users. So if we think about, say, from NASA to ISRO to, and then maybe Airbus, Boeing, so all of them are using in this form. Then there is biological sciences. There are multiple research ongoing in the sector of COVID-19 as well. If you are interested, if you can look into COVID-19 MATLAB and Simulink research, and then we have kind of dedicated a page so that faculties, like all researchers, can talk with each other, and we work with them to make these things faster as well. Then this communication, electronics, energy production, which we will talk about today, is one of the sectors as well. Railways, we have been engaged with railways in multiple forms as well for things called predictive maintenance, which goes into industrial machineries and things like that. Okay. Now moving ahead, in terms of number of people, so we have so in India we have offices in Delhi. Both Ashish and myself are based in Delhi, and we have offices in Pune, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And then we have offices around the globe. With this area is the headquarters, Natick, which basically I mean where it all started essentially. Um, and our team, so we both are in the academic team, both Ashish and me. So we work with academic institutes. So, and our team specifically is for something called MathWorks Customer Success Engineer, which means we collaborate with faculties on research curriculum, interactive curriculums on different research as well. So we are involved with almost all the IITs in different forms, NITs, and multiple other institutes in different ways as well. It can be in the research area, or it can be in the curriculum, just to make things maybe for distant learning, what is the situation now, or it can be something like how to make things more hands-on, how to create virtual laboratories using the concepts that are taught in classrooms as well. So this is like what our team, we have like around 9 people throughout the country, and yeah, I am based out of Delhi. Okay, now we'll go to a specific type of applications in the energy management sector. Um, so if we look into buildings now, so buildings, what exactly there are multiple facets to it. We'll take up an example, and then we will talk about different areas of this. So let's say if we have a building, the reason I'm talking about is, energy is one of the biggest things that we are looking for today. I mean, energy is something, I used to think about this example, like every time we used to go to somebody's place, in general, we get sweets or something like that. And then every time we go to somebody's place nowadays, people, I mean, when there is no lockdown or anything, what people ask for, they say, do you have a Samsung charger, or do you have a phone charger? Now that is what energy is so important. We always are looking for energy. We need energy for some devices. Either it can be phones, it can be laptops, iPads. We always are carrying something that require energy. So energy is so important. And then the point where we are moving away from fossil fuels also. So we have these renewables, we have solar panels, and the cars are getting electrified. So there is a lot of demand for electrification of cars as well. And in India, as you know, there's a big thrust on electrification. So all those needs some form of energy management, because if we do not save energy, because energy is like money. The amount of energy we save is basically energy gain. It's like money saved is money gain. So if energy is saved in some form and is used in a more systematic methodical way, then we can use that energy in other forms as well. Now this is a startup company building IQ. So there has been a startup company has been using MATLAB Simulink, and so we, like, our team who has worked with them has worked with them in um, different magnitude, I would say. Now what, so let's look into the problem, how buildings can save 20% heating and cooling cost. So we can look into the cost, or we can think about as energy saving. If somebody is not bothered about the cost, you can think about the energies as well. But it boils down to the same thing. If we can save energy from the grid, the amount of energy we draw from the grid, we save in money, plus we save in the energy need, like we make it more eco-friendly as well. Now how can that be done? Let's think about a building which can be like a institution, it can be an hotel, an office, or it can be some any different form. There can be buildings of different forms, managements of different forms. Now if we look into this entire ecosystem, um, let's think what are the things that exists. There are those servers where we can do computations and things like that, and we have a building, right? And from the building, we can give the current condition to a server. Now current condition means, say, for example, if you imagine maybe a hotel or an institution, it can be the load from the machine. It can be, say, for example, if there are solar panels, what are the situation there? uh, is it say a cloudy day or a clear day? It can be whether it is day or night, because it depends on that as well, when to use what. So all those parameters are there. If we have renewables, then we have that solar panels as well, and we can have battery inverters to avoid, so that we use power whenever there is a load shedding kind of a scenario as well. So there are inverters, batteries to store and then reuse it whenever needed. So we have solar panels which can take care of some of the renewable energy to make it more eco-friendly, and then we have electricity coming from the grid. Plus we have number of people, whether we want the air conditioner to be on and off. So all those factors are there. Now if we are, nowadays we can put sensors are not a big difficult thing, right? So we can put sensors to measure any of those things, and then all those current condition, the factors, or features if you call, because we will club with this with machine learning as well towards the end. So all those factors, which is called features in the category of machine learning or deep learning as well. So all those factors coming up into the picture and then going to the server. Now what do we want out of it? So it's okay that the information is there, so we take it to the server. Then all those servers, we want to run an optimization program. So optimization means we want to take in all the factors, and then we want to do some kind of a coding or program, right? So that we can understand what are we trying to do, or what do we want to achieve here. We want to optimize the cost, or rather the amount of electricity we are drawing from the grid. Also, if we can predict the amount of electricity we are going to draw, like tomorrow, based on the today's and the past condition, can we predict something? And then if we can predict, can we optimize the solution? Like, say, for example, if I have the information of the current condition and also the condition for maybe like the last 1 year as well, we feed into the algorithm, and then we predict how much electricity will be needed tomorrow, based on what we give as an input. And based on the prediction, we also optimize the program, so that essentially we know when to draw electricity from grid, when to draw electricity from battery, when to charge the battery, when to draw electricity from the solar panels. So all those things become kind of optimized, and also based on some prediction. If you know, again, machine learning, those are called regression models. So we want to use that as well, and then optimize that algorithm. So in a nutshell, what we want to do is, if we are not going as of now to the detail, we'll go gradually to the optimization program and all those things. But so we get all these conditions, and then we want to run this thing in somewhere. It can be in the cloud, it can be in a computer, it can be on the edge itself. And based on that, we want to dictate whether we want to store the battery, like charge the battery, whether we want to use power from the panels and all those things. Now these are some of the factors that come into the picture. The comfort level is different, say for example when there is one person in the room versus when there are 100% in the room, because that also is important. If we have like it's crowded environment, then we have to take care of the situation. How do maybe we have to reduce the air condition and things like that. The time of energy prices, so that is I mean in western countries the energy price also fluctuates, so that also has been incorporated. And then of course the weather data, whether it is a clear day or a cloudy day, because that drastically changes whether we are need to whether how much we can use the solar panels. And the demand and response, so based on all these things we want to achieve is basically we want to optimize the amount of power we are drawing from the grid. Right, so basically we save both in a way fossil fuel, plus also we save money because we are drawing less electric power from the grid. So that is somewhere the objective is. Now how do we do about that is what we will come to. And then we feed in to all the data after we do all the calculations in this environment, in the servers or in the cloud. Then we get the output back to the building, because we just don't want to run it in the software. We want to run it like parallelly, so that the hardware is also functioning, the software is also functioning, and we get kind of a full end-to-end system. And these are all the factors, and this is something we can also say Internet of Things, because all of the things are talking with each other, the server, the cloud, the sensors, and then after we build the algorithm needs to communicate with the hardware as well, where the decision is taken. So the control needs to be there. So we saw some of the comments like for control system, so that also needs to get integrated with all of these. So when we are talking about this kind of a problem, it's called a problem specific approach, then there are multiple things that come into the picture. And if you think about any of the smart building concept or any of these things, so we have electric engineering, of course, that is the focus domain knowledge here that is needed. Plus we kind of integrate that with machine learning, deep learning sort of environment. We won't be doing deep learning, but machine learning comes into the picture. So if you know artificial intelligence, that consists of these two pillars, machine learning and deep learning. And machine learning contains something of regression, of prediction, of those sort of things based on that also. Is there a question and thing? Yeah, it will be good if you can mute yourself if there is no question, and if you have any questions, please feel free to just post in the chat window and we can
So
discuss.
I have muted the
Right, sure, thank you. Okay, so if we do that, now let's see what we can achieve. So EMS here refers to energy management system, and traditional energy management system, if we do not do that optimization and coding algorithm part, what we find out is so this green is the set point. These yellow lines here are called comfort bounds. That means, say, for example, when we want the temperature to be. So if you imagine like an air conditioner centralized system, this is where the comfort bound is for any person to be. And this 8 to 6 is typically, if we consider to be the working hours in an office, or I mean, where majority of the people are there. So this is where the comfort bounds is. And then we give a set point, because if you are into control system, you know that we give a set point and then we use multiple things called PIDs and stuff, so that we kind of be in that region. So here what happens is we are defining in traditional energy management system, we are defining that this is the comfort bound, that it has to define between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius, and then we give the set point, and then the actual temperature remains within that. Now what happens in smart energy management system is the comfort bounds are also not fixed. I mean, it depends on how many people are there. It might depend on also and I mean, it depends on a lot of things, the time of the day, if it's like the if it's a cloudy day or a clear day, if the how what is the outside temperature or humidity. So all those things are coming into the picture here. And then if you look into, say for example, if there is an AC and the AC is typically off before 8 a.m. and people come into the office and then switch on the AC, so we see there is a drastic, so if you look into the traditional EMS, there is this temperature that goes sharply falls at around 8 a.m. But when we do that optimization optimize smart energy management system, we kind of switch on the AC earlier, maybe at 3 or 4 in the night, so that the temperature gradually drops, and it's not like kind of a delta function where suddenly there is a drop when we reduce the temperature. So we make sure that when to reach the comfort bind, and then we take the temperature into account. And these outputs, like what will be the comfort bound, what will be when we have to switch on the AC and stuff, this we are not deciding. This that algorithm is deciding based on the local conditions and the history, like what has happened in the past. So what we want to do, this traditional one is essentially what we can go for without doing the algorithm and any part of this. Smart, if we do the smart building system setup here, and then all these things, these fluctuations, that can be taken care of by the model if we create that. Now, what can be achieved, like what Building IQ achieved doing this thing, is basically a 25% reduction in cost, or 25% reduction in use of electricity from the grid. That is a huge cost saving in terms of the grid cost that they are saving. Now the question comes, how can this be achieved, right? So this is kind of the objective here. Any questions on this part, like what is the objective, what is the desired goal, and this is what they have achieved. So we'll talk about how that can be done, basically in terms of the models and then the workflow as well. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to just pitch in the chat window. Okay, now when we are going to this smart energy concept, there are 3 things which we need to change. The red ones are which are traditional, which are there, and the green ones is what is desired. So static policies is policies which are heuristic, right? Heuristic as in as basically we decide. So if it's a cloudy day, we may be not using the solar panels, we might be using the battery or the grid. So that kind of an idea. So how we define the constraints, we'll come to that. How to gradually reduce the temperature. So basically you can have, there can be controls associated with it. We can do multiple controls algorithm and associate that with the air conditioning unit. It's not like one split AC, so to say, because when we are talking about a building, there are multiple such units which needs to be controlled together. So it's not like switching on one AC sort of a thing. So it's more of a, there can be multiple different ways of management which will come to it as well. Okay, so static policies, and we need to replace that with dynamic policies based on what is happening, taking decision real time. It's not about only offline data. We need to take care of the real time data. We can make management offline data, like it's not like we do a simulation, we get the best design and that's it. That's not what we want to do. We want to create a model, but we want to update that model real time based on the data as well. There are multiple terminologies for this. And different industries also called it in different ways. There's something called hardware in the loop. So this is not exactly what the traditional hardware in the loop is, but we have the hardware running, transmitting data continuously to the software as well. So that's what we are talking about. And automated operation basically leads to the fact, since we are doing predictions and then we are taking decisions based on the predictions, so that those are automated. So basically we want to predict how it will look like tomorrow, how the energy demand will be tomorrow, and based on that we want to optimize the algorithm and then control the controls based on that. So that's what we want to do as well. So talking of the different type of energy management systems, there are all these different things. So there is HEMS, which means home energy management system. There is FEMS, which means factory energy management system. BMS is battery, and CEMS is community energy management system. So it can be like for a single home, it can be for a factory, it can be for a specific battery, because batteries are becoming very useful these days, with multiple cars just having batteries as well. And C is community. So if there is a locality and that is all they are kind of in one grid, so that can be used as well, right? And all these things are automated in the smart energy management system. So we have the demand, we have the response, and then based on that the algorithm will act. Okay. So what we will talk about is, so I won't take into the data of specifically for that building IQ, but it is a very similar, because we cannot share like confidential information of that particular company, but it's very similar, and give you um, I'll give you both the PPTs and also the demo we will talk about. So I'll basically switch over to MATLAB now and show you certain things there, and then I'll show you like a link from where we can download the data set and the models and everything there. So now let's take this example that we have this community, right? And in this community, what we have is we have the solar panels, the photovoltaic cells, we have power electronics. With that, and then we want to integrate all of them, like essentially what we talked about. And the advantage of MATLAB is we integrate with all these different sort of applications. There are things for control theories, there are things for machine learning, the prediction part of it, there are things for battery, power electronics, photovoltaic cell, all those things are there. So we can kind of use one platform to do the entire modeling. There is a terminology for that, industry terminology. Now many people are using this. It's called model based design. So model based design is basically we create in the virtual environment the entire model of the thing we want to design. So it's not like, say for example, we just model the solar panels. It's not like we just model the battery. We model the entire thing, so that if we change, say for example, one of the parameters of this photovoltaic cell, we know how the entire system respond to that. So we want to see the final output, like how much uh, power we are saving from the grid, or how much cost we are reducing, even if we want to include economics as well. So we want to see if we change one of the parameters, how does the entire system responds to that, so that we can come up with the best possible optimized design. That is not only optimized, like something which is optimized for the solar panels might not be optimized for the entire system here, because we need to integrate all the things, right? So we want to design this experiment in such a way so that we come up with the optimized system as a whole, so that we achieve what we desire to achieve. And it's not like limited only getting the best possible photovoltaic cell or best possible battery. So we want to do that in a whole. And that is true, I mean, taking this battery for this energy management, but this is true for, if you think of automobiles, aircrafts, or any factories for predictive maintenance sort of a thing. It's something that is nowadays it's called model based design. And that is the advantage of doing that kind of a simulation, where we integrate all the different aspects of it. Okay, so now if we have to build this now, what do we need? So we kind of address like what are the gaps and what we want to achieve, and based on that, if you want to have to create this, what do we essentially need? So these are the things we need. We need an integrated development for environment, so where we can do all these things. Things as in we want to access the data, so that is the data analytics part, because if you want to do prediction for tomorrow, we need to have a data for the past. And that is what typically the concept of artificial intelligence is. The machine learning comes into the picture, which helps us in doing something called predictive modeling. So also, if you remember this AI, artificial intelligence, many people are talking about this. These are there in different forms now. The advantage what we are trying to do is, we want to focus on application. It's not just use machine learning just because everybody is using it. We want to also make sure that an engineering problem is addressed when we are doing all these advanced statistical models. So there comes the concept of predictive modeling. And we cannot get rid of anything of classical, like a control system design. That is always there. So that aspect we have to integrate. We cannot achieve anything without the controls. So that is there. And if you have to optimize the entire concept, then we of course need an optimization algorithm. There can be multiple different forms of optimization algorithm, and we'll come to this. You can have like a gradient based optimization method, you can have data based optimization method. So all those optimization algorithms needs to be there as well. And then we create something called the virtual prototyping, which means we create everything in the virtual environment and play with the parameters in the virtual environment. So we understand what each parameter is doing in the virtual environment. This helps both in terms of time and money, because I mean, at the software world, if something goes wrong, the maximum can happen is the software can crash, and then we can download it again next day and install it. But nothing much more than that difficult that will happen. So we can play around with parameters and things in the virtual environment and see what is the best design. There is a question on how much past data we need for this. So that typically depends on a lot of things. Primarily, I would say it depends on the objective here. What do we want to achieve? So if it is like something you have like loads of features, loads of factors, then you can get away with a less amount of data. But if you want to find out the features from, if you have like 3 4 factors that are contributing, then we need, it's good to have more data, and then you can keep on updating. Like once we start with the model and then run it, along with the hardware, we keep on populating data, and it's not like a one time thing. If we keep on running the thing, then we generate data and then update the model. If you know, like say for example captcha, so we fill up those captcha, right, during filling up IRCTC tickets or those things. Those has been there for a lot of time, and what people have been doing is they were training the data set with numbers. So they were, I mean, it was doing a cryptographic part, plus it was training the data set. So the training was happening, and that has helped that enhance the model. The other thing is, this is more of a AI information. Like if you are doing machine learning, we need more data. I mean, sorry, we need less data, whereas in deep learning, we need more data. Just a overview of the difference. So I'm not going to like machine learning, deep learning in detail in this. This is like focused on the energy part here. But like in deep learning, what happens is we use something called neural networks, right? In that case, we need to train the neural network, and we need more data for that. But for machine learning, we need domain knowledge. We need to know. We need to know what sort of factors we like. We need to know what we are looking for. It can be like a frequency, it can be like the load factor, whatever data we are looking for. So we need to know what we are looking for in machine learning, and then we can get away with less data for machine learning. So what we will cover is machine learning part here, which we can get away with less data as well. Okay, and the final part of the puzzle is deployment. Like once we create all these things, once we create this model, we just don't want this model to be a standalone thing and then everything happening in the hardware separately. What we want to have both of them together, right? So that means we want this model either to be like an application sort of a thing, as an app which we can put in somebody's phone, and then the building manager, energy manager can look into, what is happening where. Or we can have it in a hardware, like you can have it in kind of a chip in a board. There are multiple those semiconductor boards created by say Intel's, Nvidia's, or we can and we can put the software like what we develop on that hardware, on that board, so that it can be part of that system. Like we can put it inside the energy management device using that chip. So that is the deployment part. Or we can put it this into as an enterprise as well. Like say for example, if anybody within that organization wants to access it, we can do that. So that is the final part where we want to deploy it on hardware. If you have used like in the low cost hardware, those are really useful. Say for example Arduino, Raspberry Pi, we can deploy this on those hardware as well. I mean, it's not like that high computing. So we have Arduino, Raspberry Pi as a low cost, which are very nice for academic environments, and then for industries go for like some things created by Nvidia's or Intel's. So those are the things, and then whatever we create on the software platform, we need to deploy it on there. Okay, so now if we look into challenges into this area, so one of them is accessing the data. Like how do we take data from different different areas, different things, and then build data driven and physics based model. We cannot just use data driven model. Right, we need the physics, we need to have the controls part of it as well. So we need to include both of them. One is not sufficient for solving an engineering problem. And then model it, design the best optimized algorithm, and then finally deploy it into the system. So if you look into all these things, there are multiple steps to it. So I'll cover them in a nutshell. 3 of them we'll cover into a little more detail here. How do we create these models, and then accessing and data, we'll just voice over that you can access data. Say it can be from an hardware, it can be from Excel, it can be from a cloud. If you have data in say Azure, Microsoft Azure, or Amazon Web Service, so we can integrate from there as well. And then deploy is what we mentioned. Okay, a question on, is there any inbuilt model in Simulink? Yes, that's what, I mean, one of them will cover, and then I can point to some resources for you where you can download later on. Okay, so now essentially, I mean, we have this in the slides as well, but I'll go to the MATLAB environment and show you. These are there in the slides, which you can see later on, but let me just go over to the MATLAB environment for now. Okay. So if since many of them you have used MATLAB, so this is how it looks like for the ones who have not used it. Like this is where you can do something like a equal to 3, b equal to 3, c equals to a plus b, things like that. And then I can just clear this window as well. Clear all clears this workspace area if we want to get rid of anything in the previous values and stuff like that. There are multiple things here. So new script is something where you can create your own script, the .m files. New live script is where you can create scripts with, you can think it about to be a Microsoft Word document. Like, let me just show you. It's like a second thing. So we can shuffle between text and code. Say for example, we can just write example here, right? And then so these, and then if I go to the text format, then it becomes like test. So these are not MATLAB codes. And then if I go to the MATLAB codes and then say equal to 1, or maybe we can say something like t equal to say 0 to 100, and then y equals to sine t, right? Something like this. If I say, maybe I just get rid of this, and then if I say plot of t comma y. So if I just do this and then run this section, so it will run only this part, so it won't run the text part, and I can break this section as well, so it goes separately. So this is like a Microsoft, you can think it about to be a Microsoft Word with MATLAB coding. So these are text which is nothing to do with MATLAB, and these are things for which has to do with MATLAB coding. So we can club them, and then I can say this as PDF or Word document, LaTeX or HTML. Now there are multiple other things here as well. Say for example, just since I'm talking about it, I'll just briefly mention. So say for example, if I say y of 10, I'm just putting an outlier here. Say for example, I say this is 15, right? And then if I say plot of t comma I, because these are some of the steps where we call the pre-processing data. And now this data can be multiple different things, right? So if I look into this plot, so I put an outlier here, so it comes up in the right. Okay, the question, one of the question is which version is this? So I am using 2020A, which is the latest version, but you can do live scripts from 2017 as well. This is called live script, and it saves as .mlx instead of the .m format. So .m is basically the MATLAB script. So if I save something in this new script, write something in new script and save that, that becomes .m file. This gets as .mlx file. So .mlx, this came from 2016-17 onwards, and there has been multiple additions to this as well later on. I'll say what those are in a little bit. So say for example, if I have this outlier now, now say if I want to make this this 100 maybe a interactive thing. So what we can do is, say if I say TF, and then what I say is, and if I say this to be TF, right? And then if I say this to be, you know, a control, so I can say this to be a numerical slider, and then say that this will start from say 50, an increment of 1, and then 100. So maximum to be 100, an increment of 10, say. So if I do that, so say for example, if I run this now, you can see that this changes the plot. So if I make it to 50, you look into this changes as well. This changes to 50. Now if I change this to 100, so this becomes, this will change again to 100. So this is an interactive, like a slider you can put in, right? And then this helps because you can change in the parameters and see what is happening. Now say for example, if I have this outlier, and if I want to remove this outlier, there's something called task here. So if I go to this task and say, I say clean outlier data. So if I give this task to this live script, that you clear up the outlier, so this opens up, and then we say the input data to be say y, right? So this is our y data, and then if I do that, let's see what comes up in the right as a plot. So this when this is running, it is running. So then you see on the right, so this is the outlier which I have kind of induced inside the data. And now what this live script has done is it has automatically suggested this is the clean data. Right now, this is a simple situation. I am in fact, I'm kind of injecting one outlier here. But if I take in data real time from a building for energy or the load or any of those formats, we might have outliers. And then we can just use this segments to create this, to clean this data, or we can find out where the outliers exist. So there are multiple things you can do. You can remove the outliers, you can fill out the outliers, or you can do linear, I mean, and how, because algorithm is also crucial. So all these algorithms are inbuilt. We can also create your own algorithm and put it here as well. So based on which algorithm we used, it can be linear interpolation or it can be just a previous value. So instead of the, so if I just say previous value, then what happens is this data, instead of this 15 value, it will take the previous value, right? So that's how it is, it just changes. And the advantage of what you can see here is we are not writing codes. Because I mean, we can do this writing codes as well. But what we are doing is using this task. These are like applications, apps. So you can use these things. So both options are there. We can write codes or we can do these sort of things as well. Okay. So this is just an overview of what this exists. And also speaking of these apps, there are multiple apps here as well. So if you are doing say curve fitting, we can use this curve fitting to do our what we want to do. And then we can generate the MATLAB code out of that automatically. So our live script is, why do we use live scripts? We can use live scripts maybe if you want to export it as a PDF, if you want to have it as a document, like you explain the concept, and then we put those interactive sliders and things like that as well. The important thing is you have everything together. You have the document, the theory part of it. You can put diagrams there. You can put equations like LaTeX equations, references, any of those, and then save it as a PDF. So it becomes like a full-fledged document for you. So that is the advantage, one advantage of live scripts. And then you have the tasks which we talked about. So the tasks are basically these apps, and all these apps are there which we can use for any of the applications. Like if you have a signal and you want to see the Fourier spectrum of that signals, you can use the signal analyzer. MATLAB coder is if you want to generate the C or C++ code out of any MATLAB code. So we can use this to generate automatically the C or C++ code. Application is if you want to develop an application like an exe file and you want to share it with somebody who does not have MATLAB, so that can be done using this. So you can create an app for an Android, for an iOS as well using this. And then we have the classical control system stuff, audio, and multiple other things. At the end, we have the machine learning and deep learning as well, which we'll talk about the classification today. And then for deep learning, we have the specific ones. So the regression is where the weather sort of data comes into the picture, because when we do weather prediction, we typically go for a regression type of an procedure to do things. Can we integrate live scripts with normal coding MATLAB? Yes, I mean, you can, if you have a previous version of a normal coding MATLAB, you can save it as a live script as well. Like if you have a .m file, like say, for example, if I have this, I'll just open this .m file and I can, if I go for save as, then you can choose here as a .mlx as well. So you can just choose in a recent version of .mlx file as well. So that is also possible. And I mean, they are the kind of the same platform, so you can integrate them pretty easily as well. Okay. Now, so this is basically the whole concept is. Now what we will go over to is, this is like the MATLAB. Now what we really also want to talk about is Simulink, because these are the things is are more like the controls part of it. Simulink is kind of the de facto thing which people have been using. So let me just go over to Simulink. So we can open up Simulink in this way, or we can go to the home and click here. So if I say Simulink, yeah, it just opened in my other screen, so I'll drag it here. And click on blank model. So this environment is kind of this white canvas. Sorry about that. This is like a white canvas where we can create the model we want to do instead of writing scripts, right? So now if you look into this library browser, basically, So these are the different blocks that already exist inside Simulink. Now, if I go over say continuous, right? In this continuous, you can see that there is a derivative, there is an integrator block, there is a PID controller block, and all those sort of things. Then if I go to say math operations, then you can see absolute addition, all these things. So all these blocks exist here. And then the sources, so all these blocks essentially have a left port and a right port. So something comes in and something goes out. And whatever happens inside the block is the operation that we want it to happen. Now, say for example, if I go to the sources, you see only something is coming out of here. So these are the sources. And similarly, what we have is sinks where everything ends here. So this is typically the Simulink environment. Now we can drag these things to there, but I mean, for easy use, I won't do that. Now, say for example, if I want to draw a sine curve now here, I can just say sine and then choose this sine wave in sources, because there is a sine in lookup table and all those things. So we say sine waves, and then if I click on again and say scope, because scope is a block where it's kind of an oscilloscope, right? So where we see the graph, and then we connect these two things, right? And now if I want to run this, we can just run this. And then if I click on scope, and then we see how the plot looks like here, right? Now this is to 0 to 10. Now if I want to change the time to be like say 100, we can make it to 100. And now this is if I want to add, say for example, random noise, random number to it. So I say random number, and then what I can do is I can use an addition block. And then say for example, if I want to add this sine curve and the random number to it, and then if I want to see the output in the scope, right? So I just hit space to make it like bigger so that it fits the skin sort of things. So now if I run this, you can see in the scope we see the plot has come up, right? Now a question came asked, how do we integrate with hardware and convert to C and stuff? So if you are using Simulink like MATLAB 2019b and stuff, you can generate the C code just using these apps, right? So you can just click on generate C code, and then the C code will generate from whatever you are doing in the Simulink. We can now so this is the C and C++ code advisor, where it gives you certain things of making the algorithm better. Now if I go into this model settings again, so I go to modeling and then model settings, and then let me just show you this model properties. Okay, so if I click on model settings, this page opens up, right? Now this page is, this is the start time, this is a stop time. So how much we are doing, and this is typically the same thing that is there here. So that is what it comes up here. So 0 to 100 is 100. And then there are multiple solvers and things like that. So we can use automated, like if you're solving a differential equation, if you want to have to solve, then you can choose which solver you want to use. It can be like OD45, which means it's a combination of fourth and fifth order. And it can use 113, 23, so which means second and third order, and these are all part of variable step. And then you can use fixed step. There are immense sort of these things. I'm not going into so much detail because then we can't cover what we were aiming to cover. So if you want, again, if you want any information on any specific things, feel free to reach out and we can talk separately as well. Okay. Now, if you look into here, there's something called hardware implementation. Right. So in this hardware integration, any questions, or else you can just mute it. Okay, thanks. So in this hardware, we see that there are multiple hardwares listed here. Now there is one more step we need to do before we go to this area. That is in this MATLAB window. If you go to this add-on, there is this add-on things. One more information here is when you are downloading a new version of MATLAB, you might find it to be really heavy, like more big in size. And that creates difficulty when you are, say, for example, working from home and stuff. So in that case, what you can do is you can just download the base MATLAB and Simulink, and then you can get anything later on whenever you need them through these add-ons. So in this add-ons, if I click on this add-ons, what you can see is, and then you can, in the add-on section, you can also search for any hardware. Like say, for example, if I say like the control system, I already have it installed, but if you do not have it installed, you can install it by searching here. Now, say for example, if I search Arduino here, you can see that there is a MATLAB support package, for Arduino hardware. So if you click on this, you can download the Arduino support package. So you can install this. Similarly, if you want to have for Raspberry Pi or any motor control things like Texas Instrument hardware and things like that, so you can get all of those things from that hardware settings. And once you do that, then you can find out, let me just open that page. So in this area, this will come up, this all these hardwares will come up which you have installed. So these are the ones which I have installed in my system, and it shows up. And then you can install any hardware that you have, any semiconductors. And then what you can do is, you can just basically put everything, just choose the hardware and then the device details and all those things. And then what happens is this algorithm will run on that hardware. So you can choose the target, which one do you want to use, and it will run on that. So it can be for the specific Arduino, or it can be a specific Raspberry Pi or whatever. So you can just put it there as well. So this is how you integrate with the hardwares. Okay, so this is the basic environment of Simulink, how it works. What we will go into is another step up to this, above this. So if we go into library browser, so all these things are there, deep learning, machine learning stuff. Now, if you look into here, there is something called Simscape. So Simscape is that area where we can do something called physical modeling. Now, if I go into this, say for example, if I go into say electrical, right? If I go into electrical and go for electrical elements, what you can see is all these elements are there. So in Simulink, what we are doing is we are typically doing mathematical operations. We can do integration, differentiation, any kinds of operations, continuous operations, all those sort of things. So if we have to solve, say for example, the DC motor, a simple DC motor, what we do is we can use the DC motor equation to solve it. But what we can do is, using Simscape, we can use this physical component. So we don't go into the equation. So it is good to know the equations to start with, but if you have to scale up, like the model we are trying to do, the energy one, if we start from basic equations, it will take a lot of time. So now what we can do is we can use these things. These are all the electrical components that you can need: the capacitor, diode, a transformer, inductor, all those things exist, like sensor, current sensor and voltage sensor. So then what it brings up is basically what we are trying to do is essentially, if you are drawing a circuit diagram, you will draw the circuit diagram here. That's it. And then using these things, and then everything else will be taken care of. Now, if I go into Simscape electrical, so Simscape electrical contains more of the things, but more specific areas. Like if I go for electromechanical, you can see what are the components that are existing: the asynchronous, brushed motor. You can have mechanical, and these are color coded, which means green means mechanical and blue means electrical. You can have a permanent magnet. It depends on what you want to do. You can use any of these components. So like this, we have Simscape electrical, Simscape mechanical, Simscape fluids, and all those sort of things. So it depends on the application. We can use any of these things. And for what application we are talking about, Simscape electrical is what we need, and that is very essential, useful as well. To address the question of the specifications, you need to use MATLAB. MATLAB, you can, the base MATLAB you can do for 4 GB or something, but if you are running Simulink or Simscape, at least 8 GB is needed. But if you don't need any of the applications, you can not install them. That helps. The other thing what I want to mention is you can also run MATLAB and Simulink both online, which does not require anything. It depends on the license, though. If somebody has, which we call something called campus-wide license, which many of the institutes have, they get access to this as well. This is MATLAB and Simulink running on the browser. So you don't need this. You can write on a smart notebook, some of thing. As long as you have Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, this will run, because it does not use anything local computational power. It runs everything in the cloud. This area is called MATLAB Drive, which is like a Dropbox, and then everything is there. All the files are also here. So Simulink came up basically 3-4 days back in this platform. So I have it updated. So if you are not having it, you can update it or reach out to us if you're not finding it, because it might take a week for everybody to see this. So this got just released, the Simulink online version. Because earlier you might not be able to see the Simulink window version, but just wait a week, or if you are not seeing this, but it should be seeing this as well. But this is again, you can see that this is running in the browser, and it has nothing to do with my local system at all. And you can do any kinds of simscapes, electrical and all those things in the browser as well. So this is a super advantage if you are limited in terms of resources. Everybody gets 5 GB space as well in this MATLAB drive, and you can just use these files as well. Okay, now going back to our environment. So this is what Simulink and Simscape is. Now we'll go to specific examples just to understand. Yeah, online MATLAB has not Simulink. It has Simulink starting last Sunday. It came out. So this is very recent. So I'm just giving you what has come up basically 2-3 days back. So just wait maybe for another 2-3 days, and you should be seeing MATLAB Simulink in the MATLAB online environment as well. Okay. Now, if I go back to my environment, so I'll just explain one more simple example before going into the energy one. So now this is a DC motor. You might have all seen what a DC motor is. Now if I go into this Simulink operation, so if I go into this thing, these are the typical things for us DC motor, right? So we have, like, say for example, these are the two equations for voltage and torque, and this is how we model in Simulink. Now what we are using here, this red values means we need values, initial values of conductor, inductance and all those things. Yes, we'll come to how can use. I'll address in just 5 minutes all these two questions. So if you look into here, so we have this the inductance, resistance, and all those things. What exactly is happening here is you have an integration. Current is nothing but V minus IR minus KW. So this is a multiplication block. So we multiply K with W, and this is I. So I dash, when it gets integrated, we get I, and then it gets multiplied with R. So we get IR. So the output is IR, and we have minus of IR. We are giving an input of voltage. So we get V minus IR minus KW. Right, so that is what it is. So what is coming out of this output is nothing but V minus IR minus KW. Okay, and then what is coming up is this I prime, and then if you do an integration of this, you get current, and that is what this current is. This equation I, this is after you integrate this, that is what it is there. Similarly, you can solve this other equation, and then everything comes together. So this is a typical way of Simulink way of doing things. Okay, and now we come to this something called Simscape. So if you look into the Simscape block now let's look into this thing. This does not solve the equation, so to say. What we are doing here is we are giving a resistance. And how do we get that? We can just click here. So if you click here, it says this is, you can double click here, and it says this is a resistor block, right? So what we can do is we can search here resistor, and then we get this block, and this is what this block is, and you can give a value to it, right? So we get this resistor block, then we get this other block, which is the inductor. So we get the inductor, we give a voltage source, we're giving an input voltage, and then this is the ground here, and then this essentially is the rotation electromechanical converter, right? So you can see here, this blue is electrical, green is mechanical. So this is typically, if you think about an electrical motor, DC motor, this is how it looks in terms of the circuit, and this is how you draw in Simscape. And how do we find all these things? These are all there in this Simscape fundamental So if I go Simscape, so this is one of the components in Simulink itself. So it's the same area as Simulink. So if I go in the Simulink environment, go to library browser, and then in Simscape we have all these elements. So all these things are there in Simscape inside here. Okay. The other thing was, how do you connect a Simulink block to a, say for example, a Simscape block? Okay, so there needs one sort of thing, because say if I just, now this is a Simulink block, right? This is nothing but an output block, output port. So if I can get this output port like this as well, right? So this is an output block. But now if I want to connect this output block to our Simscape block, you see that this won't let you connect. You won't be able to connect. So what you need there is something called a physical physical signal to Simulink converter. This thing, PS to Simulink converter. That means physical signal to Simulink converter. Then it looks like this. And then if you put this, oops, if you put this in the path, then you will be able to connect them. So you always need a physical signal to a Simulink converter if you want to connect a SimScape block to a Simulink block. Similarly, you need the other way around. So this is again a Simulink block, and this is a physical block. So we need a Simulink to PS converter. So this is a Simulink to physical physical signal converter. So if you want to connect anything from Simulink to physical signal, which is the SimScape, you need the Simulink to PS converter. If it is physical signal to Simulink, you need the PS to Simulink converter. Okay, so this is how you can use Simulink and SimScape interchangeably, and then we can plot both of them, right? So this contains a motor Simulink, and this is the SimScape, and then we can see both of them. We can run them. I think I don't have the error it is giving is basically I don't have the values for all these things. So I'll just, what you can do is I have this file stored, values stored in the particular file. So what I can do is I can go to that file, and then it will take up the values from there. So this is the DC motor. So the values are taking from here. So I'll just run this now. Yeah, I just need to give inductance and those sort of things. Okay. Now, coming back to our problem. So this is an overview of how do you use Simulink and SimScape for this problem. Now we'll come back to our problem, because this is kind of setting the stage of the platform. So now I will, I'll probably just decline it. Any questions, feel free to just put it in the chat window. Okay, so now this is the entire what we are talking about for the building, right? So now if I look into all the blocks that are there, I'll show them and then kind of explain what each of them are. So now this is now if you click on here, you can see this is nothing but a three-phase source, right? This is a three-phase source block, and then we use a three-phase transformer block. After that, we have this variable load. This is a picture, but if I go inside this, we can see what it contains. We contains a simple three-phase load. We contains a dynamic load control block as well. So these contains multiple different. So this part is for the variable load. This is a load, static load, which we are giving as an input. This is the variable load. Okay, now this is the part of the solar array. Again, if I go inside this, these are called masks in Simulink, and you can go inside this. So there you see there is a simple solar inverter. Now all these blocks are there in SimScape, and you can just use them. Don't worry, I'll share this file, and then you can see in more detail. It's not possible to explain this entire thing in 1.5 hours or so. I'll share this thing, and then you can play this with this as well. Now this is called the solar array, which this is for that block. This is for the battery. This part is for the battery, and inside this battery you will see it contains the entire battery management system. So it contains all the different sort of the battery part as well. Now what we do it here is there are irradiance profiles. Now here what we can do is we can choose whether we want a clear day or a cloudy day. Okay, and then this is for the battery, that part is there. We can also shuffle between whether we want to do a heuristic model or we want to do an optimized model. So both options. So these blocks are also there in the library browser, and this is basically adding something in the file as an if-else statement. So that's something what you can do as well. So this is kind of a bar. So if I go here, then it will use the heuristic algorithm. If I go here, it will use the optimized algorithm. Okay, so all these things are there, and then some of these are masked because it contains internally some of the things as some of the inner blocks. Like if you want to create the solar block, you need to have the inverter and then some of the inputs as well coming inside. Now we are also comparing the cost per day. So say for example, if I have the grid price, the electricity price, and then these are called bus, right? So where we club both of the signal, and then from here we are just comparing the cost as well. Okay, so now if I go, say for example, let's run this. If I say choose clear day, right? And then okay, I need to change the location of the file again. to make sure this does not create trouble, because many of these files are interdependent on. So this is how you navigate to the folder where you are operating from, so that it can use the dependent files as well. Okay. The file name, let me see, EMS. Okay. So from here, it will take up the files. Now, if I start with, we can go for the heuristic and not optimized algorithm, and then we choose a clear day. And now if I run this, so you can see when the Simulink model is running, it says it is compiling here. And after the compiling part, it will say it is running, and you can see that this cost is changing, and then it will stabilize for a per day cost. So it says that this is based on the dollar cost of US, so that's why it is showing in dollars. So this is the cost per day. And then let me show this plot. So if I go into this, so this is a scope block, right? So if you look into the scope block, now these are the plots. So I mean, you can choose what you want to plot. So I'm just plotting. So this is the voltage. And now if I look into this plot, so this green one is basically for solar panels. Okay. This is for photovoltaic cells, and then the green one is for loads, and then you have the battery as well for the grids. So now if you look into this, this is a heuristic model. That means we are just we are taking as per the decision we want to do. So for example, we take the from the solar panel, we take things from the solar panel when it is like a day, during daytime, during say 10 in the afternoon and some things like that. So in that case, we have like the solar panel getting rising up during the day, right? So we see that this is a kind of a parabola curve. So this area here, and then you see that the state of the charge is based on that. What is happening in the state of the charge is it's nothing is happening here, and then the charge is reducing. So we are drawing electricity from the battery at this point of time, right? And we are not drawing anything from the grid at this point because the red is 0, right? So this is where the grid is 0. So we are drawing from the solar panels, and then the battery is also getting discharged a little bit. And then we charge the battery again here at this point of time, when you can see that the grid, when the grid goes up, this is the when the grid is also going up, and then the cost is also going up. So these are some of the, if you want to see what happens dynamically for the different voltages associated with it, for the grid, and all these things. Okay. How to simulate whole day with small running time. So I mean, these are the things. So this is like, we have kind of, this is for a demonstration purpose where I'm just running it with larger time gaps, but you can make it run based on there are multiple ways to do the data processing in a smoother way as well, which we'll talk about if you have time later on. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Now say for example, if I go for the optimized model, right? I just change it to be optimized model. And then if I run it again, let's see what happens. So it says running. So I'm just waiting till it says running. It starts here. So let's give it a little bit of time. Yeah, the optimized algorithm, it uses is essentially uses the optimization algorithm as well. I'll tell why that also comes to the picture, because that is crucial here. So once we do that, I'll open up this again, the plot, and now you see it's not like that straightforward, right? Here we see that this battery is getting charged kind of earlier in the day. It's not like it started later on. So we see there is a drastic difference of how the battery is getting charged, when the solar panel is affecting, how the grid is giving power. So we find out results dynamically different. Now if you want to change, see whether it actually helped in the cost, we can also click on this compare models. And what happens is then it runs both the models, and then it will give you a comparative study as well. And we'll have the data as well from there, that once it ends. In the meantime, while it is running, I'll explain a couple of things. Say, for example, from this probably. This is kind of a summary of what we talked about. Let me, yeah, let's see. I'm just waiting for this thing to end. Yeah, so what we have talked about, if I go over here, so we talked about, right, so yeah, let me just play this video. So we talked about this variable load, right? And then that contains multiple things inside as well, that three-phase load. So this is just like a video of what I showed from the model itself. And then we have this time for this, for the day, and all those things together, right? So this is the other thing. At this point, maybe I can pause here. So what we have here is, this is called a state flow diagram. So in MATLAB, we have something called state flow, which is more of an if-else statement. So if this, then do this, if this, then do this. So we have both these algorithms inbuilt. What we can do is we can use this heuristic model or the optimized model when we are shuffling that that bar. Either it can use this heuristic or the optimized algorithm. So each can be used. The thing to mention here for this heuristic and optimized algorithm is, I mean, depending on which we can use the one that we want to. Okay. Let me just come out of, okay. Now this thing has ended, so I'll just show you what came up here. So it shows me that the heuristic one showed a cost of this. Optimized, it's not much, it's like 2% advantage we get using the optimized. But this is, again, remember, this is for the clear day. And then we get also this plot where it shows that what's the cumulative cost for the rolling cost if we say no storage. If I don't use the battery, then we see that we take more cost, right? And then we have the difference is less when we use optimized algorithm, like in this case as well. In this case, when we use no storage, always if you have a no storage situation, then we use more cost and more grid usage. So cost and grid usage are related, but you can see that the green and blue heuristic and optimization is not different here, but this no storage is giving to be more important. But then this also changes if I change this to be a cloudy day. Let me just let it run for a cloudy day as well. Then you can see the difference. So if I change this to be a cloudy day, and then if I say compare models, and I'll just let it run for the cloudy day, and then we'll see what happens. Okay. The one thing that I'll mention, so this is the model. So we talked about these things. So essentially, this is how the clear and cloudy day will look like. So the cloudy day, it's not that straightforward. We see fluctuations. We see all this different sort of fluctuations. And then we see that the photovoltaic cell, the power, it's charging, but then suddenly when it is cloudy, this fails. And then the action is taken based on that. The charge prices, the price of electricity, the state battery charge, all those things. For optimized, again, for heuristic, it comes up here, and then this battery gets discharged. But the battery gets charged very early when we are doing the optimized algorithm. So what we mentioned as well, and this is different. And what we found out for the cloudy day is we can find 14% lower cost with optimization. And if this has done running, so you can see this is, so I just ran with the cloudy day using the model, and then we see that for heuristic model the cost was this, the optimized model the cost is this, and we find out there is a 14% reduction in cost. And this is, now I ran this, right? This is just like now real time, and this is what the plot showed here. Now what did we do with the optimization part? I'll just specifically mention a little bit on the optimization segment of it. So now for any optimization problem, we need to know that for optimization problem, we need to have some objective function, some constraints, right? And then what we are doing here, this is the optimization part. And Simulink, we can interface with MATLAB coding, right? So we can write your own optimization algorithm, or you can use any optimization part of it, and then use as a Simulink block the MATLAB code for your optimization. So this is in MATLAB, we created a function for the optimization part, and then we just use it in a Simulink block. One question on the lab view. So yes, we can interface with any NI hardware. I mean, we can integrate with NI hardware, so to say. and different LabVIEW as well. So depends. Now there are certain limitations. Please reach out separately. We can talk on that. With NI hardware, you can integrate with Simulink, but with LabVIEW, we can integrate in certain areas, and certain areas we need to be a little careful. So that depends a little bit. Now, if you look into this objective function, our objective function is, of course, to reduce the cost from the grid, and then the constraints are we need to make sure that we are balancing, like the power load is satisfied. So basically, the load balance. The total load should be the load from the battery, the grid, and the photovoltaic cell. So that is the total load. So with the continuity, so to say, right? So that needs to be there. And then we need to make sure. So here in this MATLAB coding, what we are putting it, we want to minimize this. This is our objective function, right? This is the objective function, and this is our constraints. So the constraint in terms of the load balance, the constraints in terms of the battery not running out of power, and all those things. And these are the things: the power from grid, power from battery, storage, and all those things. So this is how we do the optimization part. Now let's see what we do, kind of summing up things. So we can access both data. So this way I'll talk a little bit about this part. Build data-driven and physics-based modeling. So data-driven modeling is important. We have to do the optimization part. We're integrating with the controls as well. This is kind of what to say, a bird's eye view. I'm talking from a kind of an overview. There are multiple steps in between, and then if I am kind of predicting as well, so if I'm predicting the load requirement for tomorrow, I'm also using the algorithm for regression, right? So that is using the regression learner app. So that is one another aspect that we are using. And then finally we create the algorithm, and then so what we have done, if you realize, is basically the model what we talked about. That model covered data-driven and physics-based models. That covers the equipment performance, because it's modeling the solar panels, the battery, the power systems essentially, and then getting out the best optimized algorithm, and finally deploying it to the hardware. Now, if we look into kind of the optimization part of it, we can run it using heuristic, or we can run the optimization algorithm. And for the optimization algorithm, we need to kind of make sure where the optimization part is sitting here. So we give these initial values, and then we see using that MATLAB code environment, we see whether the we can effectively see whether the objective function is met, whether the constraints are met, and that is also happening in a trial and error method, because we can visualize this, see whether the accuracy is going up and the loss is going down, because that's what we desire, right? Okay. The other thing what we are also integrating here is basically the control system. So model predictive control. So we have the transfer function and the plant as well. So both of them needs to be covered. So this is like a typical, if you draw the circuit here, and this is what it is being doing. Now in terms of MATLAB, as you can see, the platform is Simulink, right? And the modeling, the optimization part, or the machine learning, the regression part, it's using MATLAB. The optimization is using something called optimization toolbox. And then there is, if you have to loads of data, we use something called parallel computing toolbox as well here. So parallel computing means we are computing parallelly in multiple cores in my system. So if I have, in general, MATLAB or Simulink will run in one core, but if I just make it parallelized, then it will use all the 3 or 4 cores. You can also do it in your server or things like that. You can also do in local system with multiple cores. Okay, so now if you look into all the overview, what are the steps needed? So we have the data, and also you can take data from Excel and all those things. You can import data very easily from Excel, notepads, or any other platforms from hardware and stuff, or LabVIEW equipments as well. Pre-processing data is the outlier data, or it can be, you might have to find out what the data means, because the domain knowledge is also useful. So for example, if you plot the time curve, if you want to find out how it behaves in the frequency domain, if you want to go to the spectral domain and see what are the important frequency, because all these are time domain signals. So you can go to the signal analyzer and then find out the app and then do an FFT, because you can just click something and click a button and then it will give you an FFT for that, or you can get the spectrogram out of it, and then the code will automatically be generated. Right, so those are the things that you can do using the pre-processing step. Then developing the predictive model. So predictive model needs either a neural network if you want to go in that route, or you can use classification or regression, right? So these are where you can use the AI, the machine learning concept of it. So you give in the data. So if you are interested in more information about any of these segments, like the AI part itself is another 1 hour and sort of these things, so we can talk and share resources on all those things. So this area is this predictive models. So this shows the neural network app where we are using the neural network to do so if you have like a MATLAB 2019, this also is the neural network for smart buildings is also there, which uses something called LSTM's networks and neural networks as well. So for prediction of tomorrow's forecast, so that is what we can do using this part, and then add that the optimization algorithm. So kind of using MATLAB for these two areas. So if I use annotation here, right, so let's see. So essentially these two areas where you can use MATLAB, and then you can do the control system part for the electrical things in Simulink and SimScape. So data, again, we talked about, you can use all different sorts of data. Pre-processing is basically the smoothing, the filtering, and all those sort of things. Developing predictive models, right, and then optimization algorithm and integrating with analytics. I think so. All those different things needs to be covered. Let me just quickly show one example of the neural network as well, since we are here. So maybe I can go here. So if I go to this apps region, you can see that there is something called neural net fitting, right? So this is using a neural network, and this is there for an I think it contains an yeah. So if I click on load example dataset, you will see that there is a dataset for building dataset, and this is there when you install MATLAB. It's not like it's specifically for me. It's there when you install MATLAB. This example is there, so you can go here and then this dataset is already there. So if I click on here, your dataset will also come up. As you might know, the MATLAB documentation is pretty rich. So the documentation means this area, and you can get to this area. So if I just click on something, okay, I'll show that documentation. So if I just import this, and then what you can do is, so this is the data set, and this shows the example. And then you can get to this as well from multiple different areas. So you have the building inputs and you have the building targets, and then you can just click on next and then use training, validation, and stuff like that. Give some hidden neurons, because neural network you need to give the how many layers are there, hidden and output layers. If you know these things, fine. If you don't, please feel free to reach out later, because I'm not going to the details of this neural network part here today. And this is how you can do the training part and use a neural network for the prediction part as well. Okay. Yeah, I'm just let it running. So once you do that training part, what happens is, so here you can see that this thing is getting training and stuff like that, right? And then you get the output as well from here. And this is how you can just create a neural network for this inner building using this data. Okay. So this is for predictions if you want to do neural network fitting and things like that. Okay, so the data analytics is happening in the MATLAB environment, the algorithm development, and then the system level design for the power systems we are doing in the Simulink and SimScape environment. Stateflow is for that if else. If this, then use heuristic. If this, then they use optimized. Also inside heuristic, if daytime, then use solar panels. If cloudy time, then use this. All those things comes in the Stateflow part as well. And this is a so basically you can do this in parallel as well, in compute in parallel, multiple servers and things like that, and the virtual prototype comes in from the server as well. And also these algorithms are also inbuilt if you are doing any machine learning part of it. So for example, linear SVM, cubic SVM, so you can use this app called classification learner app to classify any of the problems, because since this was a regression problem, we didn't go into the classification much, but if you're doing this, you can go for that as well. Okay, and final what comes up is deploying it. So you can deploying it inside the edge, which means you can deploy it inside the hardware. Like if you have a control system, you can put it there. You can put it on the cloud or business systems, right? So you can put it there as well. Um, and MATLAB integrates with all these different forms of so other softwares as well. So for business systems like so Microsoft Azure's, it can be Tableau, Power BI. So it can everything we develop here, it can go from there. And for taking data, you can take in from Amazon Web Service, again Azure, Kafka, SQL. So if you're doing any of these databases, we can use data. You can take in data from there. And this is where we also do the analytics using. So MDS is distributed MATLAB distributed computing, which is like doing in an HPS. And there's, for example, if you want to do in a cluster and things like that. So that is how it integrates with everything. So now speaking from an industry perspective, this is how we have the intelligence part of it. We do the coding, we have the industry demand, the insights, and then we interact with the environment as well. I'll just mention one example to end with. So this, for example, this was another company who was trying to create low carbon homes. They were using fuel cell as well and solar panels, and also the battery. So what they were trying to do is minimize energy cost again and use EV battery for additional storage. So you can do those batteries also for additional storage. So again, if you look into this, we have the home. That environment needs to come into the picture. Like what is the current situation of the house? So that comes in, and then it goes to the controller, and then the feedback is taken to the controller, and the battery again goes to. So the feedback loop is created. So that is what created inside the Simscape power systems, like what we talked about, using those battery modules in Simscape, using the modules in the photovoltaic cells and things. And then we use something called model predictive controlled and MILP, mixed integer linear programming. So this is again another company called Denso, which is a company for in this space. They used for their system to create this low carbon emission houses. And again, what they did is they have like 1,000 CSV files, which are the notepad files. So from there they get the data. They did the pre-processing part of it, of filtering out the data and parallel computing, what we talked about. And then they wanted to classify as well. So they were using something called classification learner app, where we have all the modules, like say for example SVMs and all those, and then that helps that combines with the Simscape power system, the control system, and optimization. So it's not only AI classification, which is in this part. So that gets integrated with the core controls and Simscape power electronics, where we get the photovoltaic battery and all those things come up. And then finally it gets embedded. And this is a code we got from Denso. And Denso, that company specifically mentioned that the effort would have taken like significantly longer if we had separate different tools for everything. So using this one platform, they have kind of integrated machine learning, deep learning, data science, and all those sort of things. Okay. So next 5 minutes we'll probably have questions. So these are when we'll share the resource. So these are all links. Okay, these are all links which contains multiple other information. You can go to these links, and then this contains more information of any of this. So this video series, microgrid system, feel free to have that. See this will be around half an hour or maybe something like that, and you can see this webinar for more details as well. It's kind of a good follow up. And in terms of the tool, there are multiple training modules. So we have different courses. So these courses are there. This depends on these courses which you can go for, like MATLAB fundamentals, data processing, visualization. Many of the campus licenses that people have now, campus-wide license, which means everybody has access to every tool of MATLAB and Simulink. They contain all these courses anyway, and these are all like 14-15 hour courses. It contains the theory, how to do in MATLAB Simulink, and then it gives example assignments and things like that. There are multiple such courses, so feel free to go through them. And then there are courseware, like these are courseware we have developed with faculties globally. So this contains lecture notes, project ideas, and accompanying code. So this is the link where you can go into and find out about this. This is like a semester long course you can find on different courses. So it is it's not it's not limited to any department or anything. So you can go to this page and it contains multiple of these things. This is again teaching stuff, so the courseware part. One thing is this tutorials. So let me just show one thing also. If I go to, say for example, let me just go to this MATLAB Academy. Let me just go to incognito so that it doesn't open in my window. So if I go to this MATLAB Academy, so matlabacademy.mathworks, I'll paste the link as well here. Let me just put the link here so that it will help you. So this MATLAB Academy page contains all these courses, right? So if I go to this page, actually, where did it open up? Yeah, so this opened up here. Yeah, so these courses are all free, so which means anybody without license. So MATLAB on-ramp, so this works in the browser. I mean, now with Simulink on-ramp, these also, everything runs in the browser. But Simulink and Stateful might take another week or so time. But all these things are 2 hours courses, so you can learn machine learning, deep learning, MATLAB, Simulink, Stateflow. And then these one are not free, but it depends, like if they have license, anybody can use it as well. And these are not that expensive also. Feel free to reach out to Ashish if you need access or anything on these things. So definitely we can help you on that end. So all those different courses are there in this page, and you get certificates for all completion of all these courses. So this tells you, this gives you a sign. These are self-paced. That means you log in, you can come back to it later on as well, and then partially do it and things like that. So this contains a lot of information on that. Okay, so if I go back to this slide, so I think, yeah, these are the machine learning on-ramp and deep learning on-ramp stuff. Now this contains the QR code, right, for the demo I talked about, right? So you can scan this QR code, or if I click on this link, I'll show you where this exists. So if I click on this link, this opens up. This is something called MATLAB Central. MATLAB Central means it's it's inside MathWorks, but it's MATLAB Central File Exchange, which means it's not there. Everything goes into the product, but everything is stored. Like if somebody, this is created by Jonathan has uploaded. So we worked with him, and Jonathan is based out of our Europe office. So we worked together on this, and then he uploaded it here. So you can just download it from the GitHub or anything. So you can just click on here, and you will get all the files, the dependency files, and everything. So this is the link. I have put in the link here as well, and there is a QR code for this. So this form also, I mean, I know this might be duplicacy here, I think. So this also contains a link to, let me just put a link to the presentation as well. I'll share the presentation with Dr. Chauhan later
Shavik, I have, sorry for stopping you in between.
Sure.
I have shared a link of the feedback form.
Okay, so I'll just
all the participants can actually fill that. I will personally be sharing the presentation with all of them, but it's necessary for us to know who's interested, and we'll individually send out presentations to them. So it's important that please fill up the feedback form, and it's not a lengthy one. It's only 5 or 6 odd questions where we are taking the feedback. So we will be sending out all the presentations and the links for on-ramp and everything to all of you.
Yep. Okay, so any questions we can address? Let us share our email ID as well. I'll put Ashish's as well.
So thank you so much, Dr. Chatterjee, for this
thank you so much.
Nice session and in-depth analysis. And I think our audience has enjoyed so much that they have, you have already seen in the chat box that they are telling that it's a marvelous session.
Yes.
And you have explained each and every module. And as we know that this is a MATLAB, and this is a so vast that it is beyond our imagination. So this 1.5 hours is nothing for MATLAB, and it doesn't require any kind of introduction for the MATLAB. So you have done very nice session, and you have covered from energy to data analysis to AI, and as well as the mechanical portion also. Thank you so much, Dr. Chatterjee.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan Gufran. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Souvik. It was really a pleasant.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan Gufran.